असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय
We have three parts in this episode. The first one being listening comprehension. For listening comprehension, here we have a passage on the Sri Padmanabha Swami temple, which is a landmark in Thiruvananthapuram. And adjoining the Sri Padmanabha Swami temple is the Kudira Maliga, which also is famous for its artwork. The passage describes in detail the beauty of the Sri Padmanabha Swami temple and also the Kudira Maliga. The pupils on tour are taken to these structures, and as a background the description is given to you. A few questions based on the facts given in the description are asked by way of testing the comprehension of the listeners. Listening comprehension forms a very important skill in acquiring a language.
One of the 108 Vishnu temples in India, the Sri Padmanabha Swami temple rests in the old walled fort in the heart of Thiruvananthapuram. Steeped in legends and history, it is a major center of pilgrimage in the city. There exists an inevitable bondage of the Travancore royal family with the deity ever since Anniram Tirunal Martandavarma surrendered the supremacy of the kingdom at the feet of the Lord. The main feature of the temple is the blend of the Keralite and the Dravidian styles of architecture. The presiding deity, Ananda Padmanabha or Lord Vishnu, is seen reclining on Ananda the serpent. The temple and its premises is said to have evolved in time from the Anandankada nearby. Built along the lines of the Adikeshava temple in Tiruvattar in Kanyakumari district, which was part of old Travancore, it is known for its stone carvings and orthodox routine. Over the centuries, it has guarded the spiritualism and traditional rites of antiquity, which distinguishes it from most of the temples in the city. The Tarananallur Nambudiripads of Irinyalakuda have been the hereditary tantris or priests of this ancient place of worship. Some scholars also hold the region as the oldest inhabited in South India. This demarcated area comprises centers of learning, palaces, commercial complexes, and residences. The Padma Tirtham, the tank attached directly to the temple, is the most famous of the water resources. The Metammani, a fancy clock in wood situated in a tower near the eastern entrance of the temple, is a major attraction. It gets its name from the face of a Muslim with two goats on either side. As the clock strikes, the goats move in and butt the man's face, and the man's mouth opens simultaneously. This was the home of Maharaja Swadhi Tirunal Balarama Varma, the poet king of Travancore. The palace got its name from the 122 horse heads that line the edge of the roof of the building. This great specimen of workmanship in the traditional Travancore style has exquisite woodwork and elaborate craftsmanship. The palace is now a museum open to the public. It houses the paintings and antique collections of the royal clan.
Uma, can you tell me on which temple is the Sri Padmanabha Swami temple based in style?
Yes, the Adikesva temple in Thiruvatta.
Oh, that's it. This really is a fine piece of architecture. But what is this temple famous for?
It is famous for its stone carvings and orthodox routines.
Do you know the name of the king who lived in the Kudramalika?
Yes, Maharaja Swati Tirunal.
For listening, we present a story too. Stories have one advantage, that they are pieces of narration, and narratives are always good pieces of discourse, complex in the sense that a discourse can contain different types of discourses like description, dialogue, and even songs.
In the ancient days, local disputes were settled by the village head at a gathering of the entire community. The trend continues in the Grama Panchayats these days. Would you like to know how a row between neighbors was thus handled?
Ramani and Meenakshi were neighbors in a village. They lived in small houses in yards separated by a short fence. In the evenings, they met on either sides of the fence and spoke of domestic chores. Ramani was a generous, gentle woman who helped others in times of need. She got along well with most people. Meenakshi, on the other hand, was quarrelsome and often took things that did not belong to her. She was rather unpopular in the village for this reason. Her vicious tongue and unrefined ways only added to her notoriety. Ramani found that objects such as clothes, her children's toys, and even cooking utensils left in the yard overnight were missing from time to time. Later, she discovered that they actually ended up in Meenakshi's house next door. But she tried to maintain peace and did not make an issue of it. Meenakshi took advantage of her pleasant temperament and continued to take things from her house as and when she got the chance. One day, Ramani's favorite hen disappeared. She was sure that Meenakshi had stolen it. Ramani could not control herself any longer. A fight broke out between the two, and a lot of bad words were exchanged. Meenakshi denied having taken the hen. She even claimed that Ramani was trying to frame her because she was a jealous woman who could not take proper care of her household and the belongings of her family. Ramani decided that it was high time she dealt with her neighbor firmly. The head of the village was the final authority in matters of local dispute. Ramani complained to the head of all that she had suffered at the hands of this unpleasant woman. The latter consoled her, saying that this issue could also be resolved by the panchayat. Thus, the matter came up before the panchayat. The whole village gathered under a banyan tree. The chief of the village called both women and presided over the assembly. Everyone had complaints against Meenakshi, but the latter was so cunning that no one could actually prove her guilty. They were waiting for a chance to put an end to her devious ways. In front of the whole village, Ramani formally accused Meenakshi of having stolen her favorite hen. But Meenakshi had other plans. She was not going to give in to this weak woman. She denied having stolen the hen. She ranted and raved that the entire village was plotting against her and supporting Ramani. The village head had an idea. He said, "The woman who has stolen the hen has its feathers in her hair." The crowd watched with bated breath. What was going to happen now? Why did the chief say so? The men spoke in muffled tones. But as soon as he uttered these words, one of the women in the gathering passed her hand over her hair. It was none other than Meenakshi. "Meenakshi," said the head, "you must pay for the hen you have taken." Meenakshi knew that she was finally beaten.
Cuckoo, what are the names of the two women in the story?
Ramani and Meenakshi.
Mention the objects that disappear from Ramani's house, Reshma.
Clothes, children's toys, and cooking utensils.
Uma, how did the village head solve the issue of the hen?
He made a statement that the woman who had stolen the hen had feathers in her hair. Meenakshi suddenly ran her hand over her hair and was declared the culprit.
We now come to the second part of the episode. Here there is a conversation. It's a conversation on the telephone. The way in which a student or a person has to behave and the language that he has to use while talking on the phone should be known to everybody. There are certain polite forms. May I speak to Mr. So-and-so, and certain ways of farewell, like bye-bye, and so on. And this conversation gives practice in using a number of language forms which are essential in normal conversational English.
Good evening. Manchu Interior Decor. Can I help you?
Good evening. May I speak to the MD, please?
I am afraid he's at a meeting. Can I take a message, please?
I'm Kuku, his niece, calling from Thiruvananthapuram. I need to speak to him urgently. He wouldn't mind if you interrupted now, would he?
Well, he wouldn't. Not if it's an emergency. Please hold the line, Miss Kuku.
Thank you.
Hi Coco, how are you? How is your tour going?
I'm fine, thank you, uncle. How are you?
Fine Coco, what's the matter? I was told it was something urgent.
Yes, uncle. I rang up my mom at home in the morning and came to know that my father is in hospital. He's okay, isn't he?
Of course, he's alright. It was a minor case of food poisoning. He's on his way home now.
You will ask them to ring me up at the hotel tonight, won't you? I couldn't get through when I called just now.
Yes, I will Coco. There's nothing to worry about. We'll talk later, shall we? Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, uncle. See you.
Let's take a look at key sentences used in telephone conversations.
Good evening. May I speak to the MD, please?
Good evening. May I speak to the MD, please?
I am afraid he's at a meeting. Can I take a message, please?
Can I take a message, please?
Well, he wouldn't. Not if it's an emergency. Please hold the line, Miss Kuku.
Please hold the line.
I am afraid he's at a meeting. Can I take a message, please?
I'm afraid he is at a meeting. The expression I'm afraid does not always mean that I am scared. In this context, it is used as an apology. It means, I'm sorry, but the MD is at a meeting. It means, I'm sorry, but the MD is at a meeting. The greeting, how are you, usually gets the response, I'm fine, thank you. How about you?
I'm fine, thank you, uncle. How are you?
But when someone asks you, how do you do? You respond, how do you do? Let's take a look at this entire conversation once again.
Good evening. Manchu Interior Decor. Can I help you?
Good evening. May I speak to the MD, please?
I am afraid he's at a meeting. Can I take a message, please?
I'm Kuku, his niece, calling from Thiruvananthapuram. I need to speak to him urgently. He wouldn't mind if you interrupted now, would he?
Well, he wouldn't. Not if it's an emergency. Please hold the line, Miss Kuku.
Thank you.
Hi Coco, how are you? How is your tour going?
I'm fine, thank you, uncle. How are you?
Fine Coco, what's the matter? I was told it was something urgent.
Yes, uncle. I rang up my mom at home in the morning and came to know that my father is in hospital. He's okay, isn't he?
Of course, he's alright. It was a minor case of food poisoning. He's on his way home now.
You will ask them to ring me up at the hotel tonight, won't you? I couldn't get through when I called just now.
Yes, I will Coco. There's nothing to worry about. We'll talk later, shall we? Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, uncle. See you.
We now come to the third part of our episode, which we have called language practice. Here in this episode, we want our children to practice the different question forms, particularly question tags. In English, there are three types of questions. The first is called yes or no questions. Is he walking? Are they playing? Do they eat biscuits? Do you drink tea? These are questions which are called inversion questions, and they require either an yes or a no as answer, and therefore they are called yes or no questions. The second type of questions are questions with question words like what, when, where, how, which. Children have to be taught how to ask questions using the question words. The third type of question relates to what is called questions with question tags. I am happy, aren't I? You are not coming with me, aren't you? You aren't coming with me, are you? He doesn't come here very often, does he? He did not come yesterday, did he? He came here yesterday, didn't he? This kind of thing, adding a short question to a statement requires an answer which confirms what you have given in the statement is what is called a question tag. And sufficient examples are given. But please note that these examples are unrelated. They do not relate to a particular incident, since it is only language practice that is important. There might be, you see, different situations which we have taken so that children will get practice in the different forms of the question tag formation.
Matthew's father is a doctor, isn't he?
We have completed a tour of the city, haven't we?
The driver hasn't gone off somewhere, has he?
Your toast is new, isn't it?
Arun has recovered from fever, hasn't he?
We will go to the Kanakundu Palace this evening, won't we?
Pass me the magazine, won't you?
Have another biscuit, will you? Have another biscuit, won't you?
Let's play a game of badminton, shall we? Use your common sense, can't you?
In the conversation on the telephone, we came across the use of tag questions. Tag questions, or question tags as they are called, are short questions attached to the end of sentences in order to turn them into questions. The main purpose is to give emphasis. Although question tags seem to ask a person's opinion of something, they do not really do so. They take the listener's agreement for granted. Question tags are extensively used in ordinary speech and informal letters. They follow a few simple rules. 1. A positive statement takes a negative tag and a negative statement takes a positive tag. For example, it's very hot these days, isn't it? The situation in Iraq has taken a turn for the worse, hasn't it? Once again, the verb plays a key role. The main verb or the first part of the verbal group is used to form the tag. Rule 2. The subject of a question tag is always a pronoun.
Matthew's father is a doctor, isn't he?
We have completed a tour of the city, haven't we?
The driver hasn't gone off somewhere, has he?
Your toast is new, isn't it?
Arun has recovered from fever, hasn't he?
We will go to the Kanakundu Palace this evening, won't we?
Other points to note. Simple requests take will you or won't you.
Pass me the magazine, won't you?
Invitations also take will you or won't you depending on the intensity.
Have another biscuit, will you? Have another biscuit, won't you?
A sentence beginning with let's usually takes the tag shall we.
Let's play a game of badminton, shall we?
A rebuke or a statement expressing impatience takes can't you as the tag.
Use your common sense, can't you?
You now know how the question tags in the telephone conversation were formed.
He wouldn't mind if you interrupted now, would he?
He wouldn't mind if you interrupted now, would he? The verbal group in this sentence, he wouldn't mind if you interrupted now, is wouldn't mind. In order to form the tag, we stop after the first word of the verbal group and form the tag would he. The not is deleted because if the sentence is negative, the tag will be positive.
He's okay, isn't he?
He is okay, isn't he? This is a positive statement and requires a negative tag. We take the verb is, add not in the short form, and form the tag isn't he.
You will ask them to ring me up at the hotel tonight, won't you?
You will ask them to ring me up at the hotel tonight, won't you? Identify the verbal group in this sentence. It is will ask. We take the negative form of will as won't and form the tag won't you. Question tags used in normal speech are found in a robber for a neighbor. You aren't ashamed of doing this, are you? Screamed Remini. You're jealous of me, aren't you? You can't take care of your home and belongings, can you? Was the rejoinder. The chief certainly knew what he was saying, didn't he?
Language practice requires that a child or a learner who hears English has to practice doing it, repeating the same pattern several times. This was one of the methods used by people who believed in the behavioral school of psychology. And in modern linguistics, communicationists do not approve of much language practice. We have decided to have a via media policy, using some practice and using a lot of life situations to really practice the language. So we took a look at some of the important aspects of language, namely how to listen to spoken English with a certain amount of understanding.
Asato ma Satgamaya, Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityurma Mritangamaya.